Impeachment inquiries are coming. That's what Kev and Jim, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, and Representative Jim Jordan tell us. Any day now, they're going to be moving forward, but this one might actually have some teeth to it. We're talking about Merrick Garland and him being the leader of the Department of Justice, who allegedly covered up a very serious investigation into the Biden crime family, one in which this guy, Gary Shapley, was involved. He was investigating Hunter Biden on the investigatory team, and he revealed some very troubling facts that the Department of Justice promised us that the head attorney on the Hunter Biden investigation was impartial, apolitical, and had the authority to charge in multiple locations. We now know, due to this whistleblower, who was literally the guy working on the case, none of that is true. And Gary Shapley came out and gave a nice interview with this news agency. Let's see what he said before we listen to the impeachment bros, Jim, Jordan, and Kev, explain.
This is a moment in which the Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss, according to you, had made this disclosure on October 7th, 2022, meeting with top IRS and FBI officials, saying what?
So I was there and I witnessed this personally. And he started with, he's not the deciding person on whether or not charges are filed or not.
Not the deciding person on whether charges are filed with Hunter Biden.
That's correct.
Who was?
So ultimately this, if you follow the path of where the venue leads you, it went to the DC U.S. Attorney's Office in March of 2022. And they presented this case to them. At the same time as that was occurring, they requested discovery from the agents, which is a typical step when they're getting ready to charge. Now, I wasn't in those meetings. I asked to be in those meetings, as did the case agent, so we didn't help present to them. But after that occurred, he was no longer looking to charge in that district.
Weird.
So
weird.
That's earth-shattering news. It's a Biden-appointed D.C. U.S. Attorney, Matthew Graves, would not allow him to charge in his district.
So I didn't learn that fact until October 7th of 2022, so looking back to March of 2022. And that's when David Weiss, in October 7th, 2022, said that the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office will not allow us to charge there. And then he added that he would request he requested special counsel authority and was denied. In that meeting, I even had him repeat that because I knew how important that fact was and I wanted to make sure I understood it.
You were there.
Absolutely shocking indeed. Brett Baer almost is at a loss for words. And just to zoom out on this, because there's really a lot going on here. This guy worked for the IRS. The IRS was investigating Hunter Biden. There was a team of people on Hunter Biden for a long time. We know Joe Biden wins the presidency. They keep this other U.S. attorney called David Weiss in charge in Delaware. They say, this is a Trump-appointed lawyer, and so we're going to keep him in charge of investigating in Delaware, and he's got full power to do whatever he wants. He can charge in D.C., he can charge in California, he can charge in Delaware, he can charge in Pennsylvania, he can go down to Arkansas with baby mama, he can do whatever he wants and charge. This guy's on the team working under U.S. Attorney David Weiss, the guy who has that authority, and he goes to David Weiss and he says, hey, we've been investigating all of this stuff. We've got evidence now. Here's where we charge him. Because just like jurisdiction problems that the special counsel has with Trump, we have jurisdiction issues here. If Hunter committed the crime in D.C., he's got to be charged in D.C. If he committed the crime in California, he's got to be charged in California. So this guy goes to the attorney who has supposedly the authority to charge him, and he is told differently. Weiss goes to D.C., talks to that U.S. attorney there, which is Matthew Graves, by the way, the same guy who has his fingers, grubby, disgusting DOJ fingers, all over the January 6th case. Many of them. Same guy. So this goes over to D.C. Graves says no. Well, that's weird because Merrick Garland told us that that's not how that works, that Graves doesn't have the authority to tell David Weiss no. So David Weiss goes home, tail tucked between his legs. Oh, I guess I can't charge over there. He goes to California, tries it there. Same thing. Can't charge over there. So he goes back and tells his team. The investigator's been working on this case for years. This guy, Gary Shapley, he's been grinding to the bone. They've got evidence of Hunter Biden's criminality spread across the floor. They know exactly what he's done. David Weiss comes back and tells him, sorry, bro, I don't have the charging authority. And he's sitting here going, what? Merrick Garland just testified in front of Congress saying you did. So who's lying here? Did Merrick Garland lie to the American people? Did David Weiss lie to his investigators? Who lied? We don't know. But once again, this is now the statement from Brett Baer. That is shocking news.
Same time as that was occurring, they requested discovery from the agents, which is a typical step when they're getting ready to charge. Now, I wasn't in those meetings. I asked to be in those meetings, as did the case agent, so we didn't help present to them. But after that occurred, he was no longer looking to charge in that district.
So he goes over, and David Weiss being he, goes over, meets with Graves. Graves talks him out of it. Bro, you're not charging here. You're done. David Weiss comes back. He goes, no, I guess we can't charge.
That's earth-shattering news. So Biden-appointed D.C. U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves would not allow him to charge in his district.
So I didn't learn that fact until October 7th of 2022. So looking back to March of 2022. And that's when David Weiss in October 7th, 2022 said that the DC U.S. Attorney's Office will not allow us to charge there. And then he added that he would request requested special counsel authority and was denied. In that meeting, I even had him repeat that because I knew how important that fact was and I wanted to make sure I understood it.
You were there and you remember it crystal clear in your mind.
Not only do I remember it crystal clear, but I documented it. The email, this is an exhibit in the House Ways Means Committee testimony, was when I returned home that evening, I documented it in an email, and it's an exhibit. You can look right on there.
We did hear
and
previously.
I sent that email to two senior executives, one of which was at that meeting, and I said, is this accurate reflection of what occurred during the meeting? And the response was, you covered it all. So there are other things in that email to include that he needed to go to California, and he had gone to California to request a charge there. And then he even opines that if they decline to allow charges, that he would have to request special counsel authority from the Deputy Attorney General or Attorney General.
Which, of course, they would decline, and that never amounted to anything. So this was interesting because yesterday on the program, we did take a look at this. This is the email that the whistleblower sent to the rest of the people there in the meeting. He said, bullet point 2, Weiss stated that he's not the deciding person on whether charges are filed. Just so we're clear, Weiss stated he's not the deciding person. That's weird because Merrick Garland said the opposite of that. Actually said nobody else had the decision power at all. It was only David Weiss. Why? Because he was a Trump-appointed lawyer. That's what they kept saying to us. And so he said, please let me know if there's anything that needs correcting in this. And look at this. Special agent in charge of the Washington, D.C. field office says, good morning. Thanks, Gary. You covered it all. I'm taking care of the referral. Mike, let me know if you have any questions. In other words, everything you said was true and accurate, and he didn't correct that. He didn't say, no, I didn't hear that. No, David Weiss actually does have charging authority. Didn't come up at all. So it is shocking because Merrick Garland told us the literal exact opposite of this. For years, they told us, it's a Trump-appointed lawyer. He can do whatever he wants. And they tried to paper over this as though it was legitimate. We all knew it was illegitimate, but we would not have known that. They would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for that meddling Gary Shapley. Here are the impeachment bros, Kev and Jim Jordan. And they're very serious about this when they post up together like this in the same interview. This is pretty serious, man. This is pretty serious business. Normally it's just one of them at a time, but they were sitting around in Congress. Kev says, hey, Jim, have you seen this whistleblower news? And Jim says, yeah, I have. That's crazy. What should we do about it? Kev says, I got a crazy idea. Let's record a video. And Jim says, like, what do you mean? Like go on Hannity? He says, yeah, but different. Let's do it together. And Jim says, Kev, are you crazy? We're going to do a side-by-side on a TV interview? Like you're my lawyer? I don't know if that's going to work. And Kev says, Jim, don't worry about it. I'm the Speaker of the House. And Jim says, you're right, Kev. I'll follow your lead. And so they came out on Fox, and this is what it looked like.
Someone has lied here. If we find that Garland has lied to Congress, we will start impeachment inquiry. But you have to understand what we found out. First of all, I've got to thank these three chairmen. What Jim Jordan, what Comer has done, what Jason Smith has done, we wouldn't know any of this if we didn't win the majority. We would not know any of this if we didn't start the weaponization committee that Jim Jordan runs over. There are people now that are lying, and think of what transpired. They let the statute of limitation run out 6 years. These are the most serious allegations that he would get prosecuted over, but also remember, this is the timeline when his father was serving as vice president.
Very interesting. What else they wouldn't have been able to find is any of this had the whistleblower not popped out. These Republicans come out like they're doing an amazing job, and I do appreciate the Republicans, but let's be clear. Without this whistleblower, without this guy just popping out of the woodwork, and shout out to Gary Shapley and Mr. X for doing it, we would know nothing about this, right? Or, we would still be twisting around with the FD 1023 and all of that stuff. So this is amazing. And the point is, we need a handoff. Okay, we need a handoff. Shapley, the whistleblowers, these people who come out are really risking their entire lives and livelihoods for coming out and speaking out against this administration. And if you read through the transcripts, both of these people were long-term IRS people, highly credible, highly legitimate people. When they come out and step across that line. We need the ball to be caught by the other side. And so I keep hearing about these impeachment inquiries, and I keep hearing about how angry they are. And I do appreciate the joint venture here for this tag team appearance on whatever show this was. But we got to have a little bit more than just talk. Hopefully the pressure stays up. I do like the fact that Kevin McCarthy is here, joined by Jim Jordan, as the pressure stays on them. But the question is, what does the Biden administration say about any of this? And what are other Congress people doing? Nancy Mace says, we're going to get to the bottom of it. Don't you worry about it. But Joe Biden also spoke. And what was very curious about this whole ordeal is that he was asked about the norms. We know that Biden is really not campaigning because he has a hard time talking and moving, but they are waging a political campaign based on the prosecution of their political enemies now. That's really the only strategy they've got left. And so what is the narrative going to be in 2024? And they're going to talk about values, and about what a good man Joe Biden is, which is curious because there are open allegations that he was embezzling, stealing money in illegal quid pro quos from foreign adversaries, but okay. So he's going to talk about values. But what really stood out about this clip to me was the concept about norms, normality, that this is a normal environment that we're living under with Joe, and that a return to the Trump era where we didn't have people hanging off of airplanes evacuating Afghanistan, where we didn't have a new world war developing on two fronts, one in Europe, one in the Asian Pacific theater. We've got a broken border, inflation's going nuts, or it's coming back down, but maybe that's because of a recession that's looming. We've got all of these economic problems, and we have this new situation where we have what allegedly, according to him, is an equal standard of justice. The Justice Department. It's equal playing field. No one's above the law, they keep telling us. Meanwhile, Hunter Biden is getting a slap on the wrist, a sweetheart plea deal, walking away without really any damage, a diverted felony offense that's ultimately going to be dismissed, and 2 misdemeanor offenses, while getting away with statute of limitations expiring on known charges that makes him exonerated from hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not much more than that, in past due taxes. So we've got a double standard there. Talk about normalcy, that's not very normal. We talk about former presidents being prosecuted by their current political opponents, raiding former presidents' homes, indicting them, prosecuting them, and we're going to see 2 more indictments drop, maybe 3 with the superseding indictment, all going after Trump's entire entourage, everybody around him. Is that normal? This is a return to normal? They have the CDC and justifications to expend and extend student loans, wasting away at the Supreme Court. We've got all sorts of violations of our First Amendment rights, our property rights, with the CDC saying those are our houses now, and so on and so forth. So for these 2 people, this person on MSNBC and Joe Biden, them to be sitting here saying, wow, things might get really bad if we go back to Trump is nuts, but they do. This is what it looked like. And this is live. Joe Biden went on a live show. Amazing.
Again, is sort of this reverence for the institutions and the norms. And I guess the bet is that the public will see the difference between you and should you run against Donald Trump again, someone, and actually not even just Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis wants to completely direct investigations.
You see how that goes? So it's not just Trump, right? So for all of the DeSantis people out there who think that DeSantis is more electable or whatever it is, they're just going to reassess their crosshairs right over there. Whoever it goes to after Trump, it's just going to, oh, Trump's done? Perfect. Next over to DeSantis. They're already telegraphing it. We know that's coming. But that DeSantis is now going to direct investigations. And Trump has promised that he's going to go out and clean house. That's why James Comey is squirming in his little pantalones over there, because he's afraid that Trump is going to come in and target him because they targeted Trump. So they ask Joe this question.
Think that your next message to the country, the contrast is even sharper than the soul of the nation. You've got the other party openly running on politicizing the rule of law.
Politicizing the rule of law. They're openly running on that. Wait a minute. Who is prosecuting whom now here? Joe is prosecuting Trump. His DOJ is exonerating his son. We have whistleblowers coming out saying that every person was wanting to move forward except the people who could actually make the decisions. It's as corrupt as it can be. And they're worried about Trump now, saying that he's actually going to prosecute the bad guys.
Well, the answer is, I think that it's going to be a major issue. You may remember, I know you remember because you've spoken about it. When I ran for 2020, I made a speech on the threat to democracy, and I made it in Philadelphia at Independence Hall. And a lot of the press said, what's he talking about this for? A lot, not just the press, others. Why is he talking about this?
It's not a kitchen table issue.
That's right. But guess what? 66% of American people thought it was important.
Correct.
They worry about it. They do worry about it.
About what values?
And I think that it's important that they know that my value set is very different than this new MAGA Republican Party. And I really did think.
What, corrupt plea deals for your crackhead prostitute using son? Those are your values? Exonerating him while other people rot away? Remember, Joe Biden passed the 1994 crime bill, the big drafter of that. And we had the 3 strikes laws and mandatory minimums and all sorts of things. There are men and women sitting in prison because of their crack use right now. Hunter Biden is not one of them. Those the values he's talking about?
Look, I know you're going to think I'm a little naive here after all these years.
Yeah.
But I have great faith in the instincts of the American people.
So do I.
I really do.
Yeah, I think a lot more people are going to see this. They pulled the wool over a lot of people's eyes because they were panicked and fearful of COVID and Trump mania. But now we're getting to see a lot more about Joe Biden's facade, behind the scenes, about what he really is involved in, and people are waking up. Now, Joe Biden had a little difficult time at the end of this interview, and, you know, normally at the end of a TV interview, the camera just cuts over to this woman, and they just say, hey, blah, blah, MSNBC, you know, Pfizer, whatever. And so then the person who's being interviewed just sits there. Joe Biden didn't follow that protocol because he doesn't really do a lot of TV interviews. Normally, they just move him from room to room, put a teleprompter in front of him. So this is a little bit new and unusual for him.
And the ones that didn't vote for your bills but run on them.
That's right.
Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Nicole,
much.
I appreciate
it's great to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere. It's a very exciting day around here. We'll have reaction and analysis to everything we just heard.
All right, so that's our president just walking on out of there. All right, have a good show. Have a good show. See you guys. All right, and you know what was so funny about this is that she says, don't go anywhere. You know, she's talking to the audience, but it's just like one of those things that happens. She says, don't go anywhere to the audience, but she's also kind of talking to Joe in a weird way. Don't go anywhere, Joe.
Well, and the ones that didn't vote for your bills but run on them.
That's right.
Mr. President, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Nicole,
much.
I appreciate
it's great to have you.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. It's a very exciting day around here. We'll have reaction and analysis to everything we just heard.
Oh, no. So he's having a difficult time over there. And, you know, they just played it off. All right, that's fine. So Joe Biden walks on out of the room. So Congress and the impeachment bros say that they are now seriously considering it. We'll wait and see.